Yo, 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 yo! What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be reviewing Splattered Spine on Iron Fortress Records. 2025 EP is called Fractured Souls. Now, someone showed me this on Instagram, and the first thing that came to mind was Prophecies Fore Foretold. The artwork kind of looked a little similar. You know, a lot of bands are doing the 90s thing. You know, I get it. You know, 90s were the best era of brutal death metal. Actual music, Mortician Worship, with some hardcore. Reminded me a lot of Sanguine Sugarbog too. One of the pet peeves I had with this, I noticed very fast when listening to this. Some of the screams felt a little weak, like whispered or like kind of. A little gripe, felt a little weak. You know, it wasn't like the type of scream, you know, something like Regurgitation or Skinless would do. That was a little bit grive. There is hardcore vocals towards the end. I didn't mind them. Growls, a lot of growls reminded me of like Will Romer, Devin from Sanguine Sugarbog. It did remind me of like the early Maggot Stomp days, like the Sanguine Sugarbogs, those type of bands. You know, I felt like if this was around 2018 to 2021, this would have been like the perfect time to release this. It does feel a little past that wave, you know. Everything's kind of like, in hardcore and brutal death metal, everything right now is kind of like, you know, the final resting places, the anhedonias. So it did have a lot of energy. I did enjoy that. It did feel like, at the end of the day, a Mortician Worship band. Something along the lines of, like, Atavism or Carnivorous Vajayjay. And I'm going to post a video sometime, maybe this month. We'll see, maybe a year from now. You know how I am. But I'm going to do, like, Mortician Worship bands, because I feel like there's a lot of good Mortician Worship bands. Vocals I like. This band did have riffs. This does have some meat on its bones. It's not something that I think if you get this, you're going to listen to it once, be like, oh, that was cool, you know, caveman, brutal death metal, then it gets lost in your stack. You know, it does have memorable moments. It does have cool riffs. Overall, I'd give it a good, like, I'd give it a good 8 out of 10. A bunch of young kids from Delaware. It's kind of local to me. So, you know, I dig it, you know. Maybe my opinion's biased, too, because I've heard a lot of really bad deathcore and really bad bands that claim to be brutal death metal, so maybe I'm biased. I don't know, but I was a fan. I dug it. I'd pick up a copy. You know, but you know, we're seeing a lot more of these bands in brutal death metal. Kind of on the low. It's not, you know, the biggest thing right now in the scene. You have, you know, Anhedonia, Final Resting Place, Anatomize, you know, Impure Conception. So, you know, you have, you know, there's some cool brutal death metal bands that aren't, you know, New Standard Elite, you know, like the Blast. We're kind of going back to like the internal bleeding, caveman type of stuff. And I respect it, you know, as long as it's not total technical and wanky, I'm digging it. But I dug it, but it's like, you kind of hear then like the scream. I don't know if it's picking it up, but kind of like that, like whispery, like kind of thing. I wasn't too much of a fan of it, but you know, I get it. You know, if you're trying to do some like Mortal Decay type of like type of, I don't know, you know, but I dug it. I just wish they were a little bit more powerful, like Regurgitation or Skinless, a little bit more, you know, type of scream. But overall, you know, a good 8 out of 10. You know, I've been posting more because I've been into these brutal death metal bands more. You know, it was like, it's hard for me to post in like 2023 when it's like all we had was like stabbing clones. You know, it's just like, what? How am I gonna make what am I? They're all like generic, you know? It's all just generic. But I dig it. I don't mind a little bit of hardcore influence on the Mortician, a little bit on the TISH. Good Mortician Worship, good Sanguine Sugarbog Worship. Go get a copy of Splattered Spine. I keep wanting to say Splattered Spline. It's like a tongue twister. But peace.